Nutcracker and the Mouse King. By ETA Hoffman. Chapter 12. The Toy Kingdom. None of you children, I believe, would have hesitated about following the noble good-hearted Nutcracker, who had no harm in his thoughts. Mary consented the more willingly, as she knew well what a great claim she had upon Nutcracker's gratitude, and felt sure he would keep his word, and would show her some splendid things. So she answered, "I will go with you, Herr Drosselmeer, but it must not be far or for long, as I have not slept nearly enough." "On that account," replied Nutcracker, "I take the nearest way, though a somewhat difficult one." Forward he strode, and Mary after him, till he stopped before a great old clothes press standing on the floor. To her astonishment, Mary perceived that the door of this usually locked-up press was open, so that she quite plainly saw her father's fur travelling cloak, which hung right in front. Nutcracker cleverly climbed up the braidings and trimmings of it, till he could catch hold of the big tassel dangling by a thick cord on the back of the fur. As soon as he had given this tassel a strong pull, through the sleeves of the cloak came down an elegant cedar wood staircase. "Will you please go up here, my dearest young lady?" said Nutcracker. Mary did so. Then scarcely had she mounted through the sleeves, scarcely got up to the collar, when a dazzling light streamed into her eyes, and all at once she found herself on a delightfully scented meadow, from which rose millions of sparks like gleaming gems. "We are now on Sugar Candy Meadow," said Nutcracker, "but will at once pass through that gate." Now, as Mary looked, she was aware of a beautiful gate, which rose on the meadow only a few steps before them. It seemed to be all built of white marble, dotted with brown and raisin-colored patches, but, on coming nearer, Mary saw clearly that the whole mass consisted of almonds and raisins baked together in sugar, for which reason, Nutcracker informed her, the gate they were about to pass through was named the Almond and Raisin Gate. Common people vulgarly call it the Schoolboy Grub Gate. In a covered passage leading out from this gate, apparently built of barley sugar, 6 little monkeys dressed in red jackets were making the most beautiful music from cymbals and triangles that was ever heard, so that Mary scarcely noticed how she advanced on the marble flags, which were nothing else than an elegantly polished mosaic of sugar plums. Soon rose about them a very sweet smell, given forth by a wonderful wood that opened out on both sides. In the shady glade was such a bright sparkling and glittering that it could be plainly seen how gold and silver fruit hung on the brightly colored stems, and how trunks and branches were all adorned with ribbons and nosegays, like the guests at a joyful wedding party. And when the scent of oranges stirred as a rising breeze, there was a whispering through leaves and twigs, and the tinsel rustled and rattled, so that it all sounded like merry music, to the tune of which the shining little lamps kept hopping and dancing. "Ah, how lovely it is here!" cried Mary, enraptured with pleasure. "We are in Christmas Tree Wood, dear miss," said Nutcracker. "Oh," went on Mary, "if I only might stay here a little, oh, it is so beautiful." Nutcracker clapped his little hands, and forthwith came up some small shepherds and shepherdesses, hunters and huntresses, who looked so frail and white that one could believe them made of pure sugar, but Mary, though they were wandering through the wood, had not yet noticed them. They brought out the dearest little armchair, all made of gold, laid a cushion of licorice upon it, and very politely invited Mary to sit down. As soon as she had done so, the shepherds and shepherdesses performed a very graceful dance, for which the hunters blew a tune in quite correct style, and then they all disappeared into the underwood. "You will excuse them, most worthy Miss Stahlbaum," said Nutcracker, "you will excuse their dance going off so badly, but these people all work upon strings, and must always keep on doing the same thing, and if the hunters played so sleepily and flat, there are reasons also for that." The sugar basket was indeed hanging over their heads in the Christmas tree, but rather out of their reach. Shall we not now go on a little farther? Ah, but it was all very pretty, and pleased me very much, said Mary, as she got up and followed Nutcracker going on in front. Their course lay along a sweet rippling purling brook, out of which seemed to rise the rich odours that filled the whole wood. "It is the Orange Brook," said Nutcracker, in answer to her inquiry, "yet, apart from its fine scent, it is nothing for size and beauty to the Lemonade River, that likewise falls into the Coconut Milk Sea." In fact, Mary soon caught a stronger sound of rushing and dashing, and came in sight of the broad Lemonade River, whose noble grey-tinted waves wound their way through a glowing greenwood lighted up with carbuncles. A singularly fresh, bracing coolness was exhaled by this splendid water. Not far off there rolled slowly by a dull yellow stream, that sent out an uncommonly sweet smell, on the banks of which sat all sorts of pretty little children, who were fishing for small thick fish, and ate them up as soon as caught. On coming nearer, Mary remarked that these fish looked like filberts. Some little way up this stream lay a very nice village, houses, barns, church, parsonage, all dark brown, with smart gilded roofs, and many of the walls were coloured, as if citron peel and almond kernels had been stuck in them. "That," said Nutcracker, "is Gingerbreadham, which lies on Honeyburn. Some very pretty people live there, but they are mostly in low spirits, because they suffer much from toothache, so we will keep away from it." Just then Mary perceived another little town, which consisted of nothing but gaily tinted, transparent houses, and was most beautiful to look at. Nutcracker went straight towards it, and now Mary heard a wild cheery din, and saw how 1,000 dwarfish folk were in the act of examining and unloading many high-packed wagons which stood in the market-place. But what they took out of these wagons appeared nothing but brightly coloured papers, and the silver coverings of chocolate sticks. "We are in Bonbonstown," said Nutcracker, "and there has just arrived a convoy sent from Paperland by the Chocolate King. The poor people of Bonbonstown have recently been seriously threatened by the Fly Sultan's army, on which account they are covering their houses with the supplies from Paperland, and throwing up fortifications of the strong materials which the Chocolate King sends them. But, dear Miss Stahlbaum, we will not visit all the small towns and villages of this country, on to the capital." "Dash to the capital!" quickly hastened Nutcracker forward, and Mary after him, full of curiosity. Before long, a rich perfume of roses greeted them, and all the air seemed filled with soft waving rose tints. Mary saw that this was the reflection of a rose-red shining river, whose rosily silver ripples purled and prattled before her as if keeping time and melody. On this lovely water, that gradually spread out into a lake, swam noble silver-white swans with golden bands round their necks, and sang the most beautiful songs against each other for a wager, to the tune of which little diamond fishes ducked up and down through the rose water as in a merry dance. "Ah," cried Mary, quite excited, "this is really the lake which Godfather Drosselmeier once promised to make for me, and I myself am the girl who is to play with the darling swans." Nutcracker gave such a scornful laugh as she had never heard him do, and said, "A thing like this your godfather can never manufacture. Don't you trouble about that, however, but let us sail over the Rose Lake to the capital city on the other side." Thank you for watching. If you would like to support the channel, please like and subscribe.